I sure hope I can get this Tailwind. Maybe I should have Terra Darked just to take a hit from the Calyrex, but no need as they don't have neutralizing gas. I didn't check the text. I just assumed they had neutralizing gas. It is Levitate Wheezing. It's VGC Legends. It's the series where I spin a wheel, I get a random legendary Pokemon, I speed build a team around that legendary Pokemon, and I try it out on Scarlet and Violet VGC Regulation I ladder. I do it because I like legendary Pokemon and I want to try a bunch of them out, and I do it because speed building a bunch of teams. Coming up with a bunch of different concepts, some of them definitely better than others, gives me a fun look at a number of different sides of the format, with a number of different teams, maybe some creative game plans along the way, and maybe I learned some things. It is, of course, the series where I talk every single time at this point about how the wheel has not yet given me a single legendary Pokemon from my favorite generation, Generation 2. This is part 30 of the series, and there hasn't yet been one. Maybe a watch pot never boils, because I stopped talking about how a bunch of Gen 8 and 9 legendaries were all accumulating on almost half of the wheel, and shortly after I stopped saying that, I did get a Gen 8 legendary last time. So maybe if I keep calling out the lack of Gen 2 representation every single time, we'll get to the point where eventually only Gen 2 remains on the wheel. But there's one way to find out. Let's spin the wheel and see what we get for today. It's not going to be Gen 2. We've blown way past that. It's going to be Zekrom. I believe that is the last one of that trio. I believe the other three are accounted for. And we did finish the bird trio recently with Moltres following Articuno and Zapdos, but this might be the first time that we're finishing one of the big trios, like restricted trios. So that's fun. Let's see what we can do with Zekrom. Okay, Zekrom is not great for restricted Pokemon. That kind of goes for all of its trio. But, I mean, people play it. Usually not because it's a meta call or anything like that. Usually because they want to do something unusual. Like some people with Zekrom, where they just like this Pokemon and want to push it to its limits. I mean, it's playable, is what I'm saying. Honestly, my first instinct is to slap it onto a Kyogre team, kind of like the one I used last time. It plays very differently from Regieleki, though, apart from being an electric type. Does it get Tailwind? It does get Tailwind. So I could borrow inspiration from a couple of past episodes of this series. I'd get some physical offense with Zekrom that I didn't have with Regieleki, and then I could also have the Tailwind setter that is a little bit on the slower side and a little bit more situational about when it clicks the Tailwind. Although, at that point, I already have Tornadus. Also, I've kicked Ice Rider Calyrex out of a restricted slot. Maybe the whole thing needs to be reworked at that point. But that's the basic idea. But I'm not sure I want to do that. I mean, this does look very strong, this trio, if I figure out the right stuff around them. Maybe I just don't need Tailwind Zekrom. Maybe I could do Torn. I don't know what Zekrom would run. Clear Amulet or Life Orb, probably. Fusion Bolt. Maybe Bolt Strike. Bolt Strike is scary. 85 accuracy. Not amazing. What's the special attack? I could run Draco Meteor, honestly. Or Thunder. But probably Draco Meteor is kind of a surprise attack. I guess Charge Beam. I could, I could set up its special attack. I don't think so. It gets Imprison. I could Imprison Tailwind, but the problem is they probably just set up Tailwind first because Zekrom is relatively slow for a Tailwind setter. So it's a funny idea, but I don't think it works. I am going to check the usual resources. I wouldn't bet that anyone used Zekrom in Bologna, but let's restricted Pokemon are at the top. Definitely not in the top 256. I'll check all of them. So Santiago, no Zekrom. Utrecht. No, there's a Mewtwo, but no Zekrom. Melbourne. No Zekrom. I'm not shocked, but I thought maybe there was a chance. Alright, launch stats. How are people running it? It does show up at 0.04% usage. I think that might be less than Galarian Moltres. Interesting. Most common restricted partner is Reshiram. That's people trying to make the fusion moves work. Of course, Zekrom gets Fusion Bolt, base 100, 100 accuracy. If you've used Fusion Flare on the same turn, you get a double power. And guess who has Fusion Flare? Yeah, that might be worth. It's not good, but it might be worth a try for the video. Kyogre is the second most popular restricted partner. Then there's White Kyurem, which also gets Fusion Flare. If I were to make a Zekrom Reshiram team, I already did it once. You might know where I used one, but that was Mono Gen 5. I wouldn't want that here. If I were to make a Zekrom Reshiram team, this is actually almost all Gen 5 bonds on the screen right now. If I were to make a Zekrom Reshiram team, I'd want Tailwind. I might actually want something like I used on that other team, like a Whimsicott, Tailwind, Sunny Day. But then I could run in like Incineroar. Try to cover a bunch of threats with that, and have Flare Blitz boosted by the sun. It's an option. It's not very good. I keep coming back to that. I could just play some more rain games with this core. Right? Again, Zekrom plays very differently from Regieleki, but it might be a net gain just because it gives me some physical offense for this group. Double fusion moves is more creative and sort of unusual, but I don't completely see how I would do it. I think we best leave those in the past, and I think we run this. And there'll probably be similar sets on these guys to what we've seen before. I probably do want an ice type, so I have the ice coverage option. I'm thinking Weavile. It's unusual in this format, but it's fast. It hits reasonably hard, but I'll see what else is available. Oh, Beartick is actually kind of fun because it gets Swift Swim. It's not a good Pokemon, but it's kind of fun. Chien-Pao is probably the good Pokemon answer. Iron Bundle. Iron Bundle honestly could play kind of a Regieleki role. That's not the worst thing. Kind of just a reshuffling of the last team, but I'll live with that. Mamoswine honestly has potential, but I think it's Iron Bundle. Weavile's not crazy with the dark typing. I think it's Iron Bundle, Weavile, or Beartick. Why would I run Weavile over Chien-Pao? I probably wouldn't. Iron Bundle, Chien-Pao, or Beartick? Chien-Pao is also kind of nice because Sword of Ruin boosts Zekrom's damage, and then you have the Ice and Electric coverage right there. I'm just checking Weavile's move pool. I think it gets Snarl, so that's something. It gets Taunt. It's Ice Shard. Which Chien-Pao also gets Ice Shard. I feel like Ice Rider Calyrex was one of the biggest threats last time and would be one of the biggest threats again here. Chien-Pao helps with that. So would, say, an Incineroar in the last slot. Or Volcarona. Volcarona might be reasonable on this team. It definitely might. Might be a little bit redundant with Landorus in terms of the role that it fills, but no, I gave it Redirection. Maybe Struggle Bug. Chien-Pao or Iron Bundle. I think I've talked myself into Champao because of the offensive synergy with Zekrom. I don't know if it'll be good, but there's a lot of defensive anti-synergy, but I'm willing to give it a go. And in that case, probably I don't want Volcarona in the last slot. Probably I want something else to compare with Champao, maybe Rillaboom. But I'm still thinking about how to beat Ice Rider. Maybe Rapid Strike or Shifu is the answer after all this time. It's powered up by Rain, it's powered up by Champao. I can actually run the Choice Scarf set this time and outspeed a lot of threats and overwhelm them. Yeah, I think I'm good with that. Choice Scarf. The Sash goes here. We know what kinds of sets these run. Kyogre, do I do my go-to choice specs, or do I do something else? Something else would be what? Assault Vest. Mystic Water. I don't think Calm Mind is right. I think we're sticking to the fast offensive identity from the last version of this kind of team. I think Specs is okay, fine. It is fine still. And then for Zekrom, do I want Fusion Bolt or do I want Bolt Strike? Or do I have room for both? What am I running? I actually think Draco Meteor is pretty funny. I don't know if it's any good, but in fact, I think there's a good chance it isn't. Do I want like an Iron Jugulus in this slot? Probably not. I think Tornadus is fine. Anyway. Fusion Bolt or Bolt Strike? Let's do Life Orb Bolt Strike. Let's just take some risks here. We're using Zekrom. We're kind of taking risks inherently. Let's run... Does it get... I think it gets Scale Shot, right? Does it not? Oh, Scale Shot isn't usually useless for some reason. Maybe that's a single battle thing. I guess it's Draco Meteor or Coverage. Or Fusion Bolt for a safe stab. Bolt Strike Scale Shot is not bad for coverage already, I would think. And I have other Pokemon to help with the coverage as well. Maybe I'll think of something else that I want, but for now, Draco Meteor. Protect. And for the Terra type... probably needs a defensive Terra type because it's in a bad speed tier for a restricted Pokemon. I was going to say it's on the slower end, but that's not even true. It doesn't play well in Trick Room with Pokemon like Ice Rider, Calyrex. It's in an awkward middle spot where a lot of restricteds outspeed it and a lot of restricteds underspeed it. Same goes for Kyogre, but Kyogre is such a menace. I think Zekrom feels it more, and I am running a defensive Terra type on Kyogre. So Zekrom is weak to Ground and Fairy and Ice and Dragon. I could just do like Terra Steel. Any Terra type that covers for Fairy still keeps the ground weakness in place, but I do have a lot for threatening ground type attackers. A lot, including 2 ground immunities. So I think a Fairy resist Terra is probably the right call. If it's Poison doesn't really bring anything more than that to the table. But actually, Steel resists all of Zekrom's weaknesses except Ground. Thinking. Run to a Miraidon. Yeah, this takes the Draco Meteor or Dazzling Gleam. Doesn't help it deal with electric attacks, but they're not likely to click that immediately. If I run into Koraidon, it probably just clicks Close Combat into Zekrom, and Terrestrializing is actually disadvantageous. But I don't think I'm going to be covering for Close Combat with my Terra type regardless. I could do Terra Fairy. If I run into a Kyogre, I'm better off not Terrestrializing anyway. To Groudon, I'm probably better off not bringing Zekrom. Into Ice Rider Calyrex, this helps, sort of. Maybe less than I'd like it to. Into Shadow Rider Calyrex, this doesn't really make much difference. Into random Fairy type attacker, click button, go. Is Terra Fairy better? Dragon immunity. A lot of neutral matchups. What is Zekrom running? Fairy is the most common Terra type. Alright. Oh, Clear Amulet's the most common item. That's not surprising. Oh, I should run Loaded Dice though if I'm running Scale Shot. That's right. Is that really worth it then? Also, they're running more Fusion Bolt than Bolt Strike. No, we're gonna go big here. We're gonna go Bolt Strike, especially since I have an item that doesn't boost any of my attacks except the Scale Shot. I am convinced by the Terra Fairy though. I will switch to that. I'll trust the wisdom of the crowd on that one, and I'll fill out the rest of these sets, and we'll look at the finished team. And here it is, pretty much what you were expecting, I'm sure. Sorry, I bumped the desk there. I've gone back to full coverage on Kyogre, Thunder, and Ice Beam. Hydro Pump was not very useful last video, but now that I'm dropping it, I'll probably run into nothing but opponents who spam Wide Guard all day, because that seems to be how the ladder goes these days. I'll grumble about that if it happens, but what I will not be grumbling about, and you hold me to this, you let me know in the comments if you catch me complaining about missing my moves, because we're going bold here. I've got Bolt Strike, Origin Pulse, Sandsear Storm, Icicle Crash. We're embracing inaccurate attacks for this one, whatever the consequences of that are, so tell me if you catch me complaining about it. Otherwise, let's go. This person is a Gligar! That's so cool! I thought it was cool when I faced a Gliscor in a recent one of these. This person is a Gligar! Veteran of PDL season... What season did I have Gligar? Was it 7? I had Yanma in season 7. I don't think I also had Gligar. Was it season... What season did I have Gligar? Was it season 5? Ah, well that's something to check later. You'll have to see Gligar. Awesome Gen 2 Pokemon. Alright, I should probably pay some attention to the rest of their team. Which consists of Zacian, Weezing, Galarian form, Calyrex, Shadow Rider form, Dondozo, Tatsugiri. I don't know the names of my Tatsugiri forms, but this looks like the one that boosts defense. This is an annoying team. And you know what? I can Bolt Strike stuff, except... Well, Weezing's physically bulky, and Zacian's an offensive threat, but also... Gligar's immune. Whoa. I'm gonna lead Landorus, because that immediately threatens Zacian and Weezing. We're starting to get my Tailwind up, because they can turn off Prankster. But I'll lead Tornadus anyway. If I can get the Tailwind, that's very valuable, and I'll bring my 2 Restricteds, and we'll see what I get from that. What season did I have Gligar? If I could remember its nickname, that would tell me. Because I've had a different nickname theme every season, but... anyway. I sure hope I can get this Tailwind. Maybe I should have Terra Dark just to take it from the Calyrex, but no need as, they don't have neutralizing gas. I didn't check the text, I just assumed they had neutralizing gas. It is Levitate Weezing. That's why my Tailwind went up immediately. taunt this thing. It's already going to poison my restricteds when they come in, but I don't need to quick and poison gas. Although, I actually think it would have been more valuable to quick Rain Dance there so that I could land a Bleak Windstorm reliably. But, like I said, we're not going to complain about missing moves in this one. We're going to face our first test as it misses, as the Bleak Windstorm misses the Calyrex, but hey, that's fine. Should have clicked Rain Dance last turn. Now I get my restricteds in. They both get poisoned. This is why it's a good idea to pay attention to the game text, because I could have known that wasn't neutralizing gas wheezing. Maybe you noticed and you were yelling at me about it. And justifiably so. I kind of want a scale shot, actually, into the wheezing to get the speed boost because my Tailwind's about to end. Okay, missed that. It's not a fairy type anymore, but still have to land the attack. That's not the move that I thought Zekrom would be missing. That's kind of a fun little surprise. I feel like this video might turn me into Homer Simpson when he's trying not to swear. Fiddle-dee-dee! That scale shot did not connect with its intended target. Yeah, Protect is obviously very strong for them because my Pokemon are poisoned and there's nothing I can do about it. There's the Tatsugiri. This is why I've been clicking Bolt Strike into Dondozo, because of course the Tatsugiri was always a threat to switch in. Bolt Strike still does a lot through the boost. It also paralyzes, which I honestly didn't remember it could do. Of course, most electric types it can paralyze, but like Fusion Bolt can't, so it's not crazy to think that one would be unable. But Kyogre is not going to get through this. We do land the Origin Pulse into Dondozo. And actually another one would KO, but we don't get another one. Alright, that was a silly game. What was our rating? Mid 1500s. Okay. Levitate Wheezing just... Yeah, you don't see that every day. Okay. Groudon, Gouging Fire, Miraidon, Urshifu, Iron Hands, Whimsicott. Landorus looks very strong here. Zekrom looks not so strong here, but hey, get used to that. Kind of like Champao. I think I want Tailwind, though. I think I want... Leading Landorus Tornadus into Miraidon is always tricky because it can just blow me up with Dazzling Gleam or something. Although I could just protect Landorus turn 1 and scout for that. Although if they're smart, they'll cover for that. But, you know, eventually we have to play the game and one of us wins. I'm just going to bring my Restricteds. I think Champao could be very good in this matchup, but... Hey, this video is kind of about Tornadus, Landorus, Kyogre, and Zekrom. I'll do the thing that I said, Protect and Tailwind. It does sacrifice a bit of initiative. Actually, I don't think I have to do that. Because they don't have their own Tailwind or Fake Out Pressure on the board. If they Terrasilize Miraidon, then it might not take so much from the Earth Power. Unless it's Terra Electric, a lot of them are. Terra Dark, it's probably going to click Snarl. Still a little decent damage there. I'm seeing so many Snarl Miraidon now. It must be... at least in best of 1, practically a standard set at this point. I could bring Zekrom in on that, but then the Whimsicott threatens it. I'll Protect and Bleak Wind this turn, although I think Tornadus is probably going to be knocked out by the Snarl. That's not really very valuable. Snarl Miraidon is kind of just wrecking me here. That's interesting information, I guess. I'm going for the double Protect. I don't see what else there is to be done with Landorus here. And I'm going to Terra Fairy to take a possible Moonblast, Scale Shoot into Miraidon. Okay, they switch Miraidon out. The Scale Shot may yet pay off, though. They Encore Landorus. 4 hits into Groudon. Landorus will not be allowed to attack. If the next scale shot gets 5 hits, can it KO Groudon? Even then, it seems iffy based on this damage. Guess I'll go Kyogre, and I'll go for the scale shot. Yeah, they were never letting Landorus attack there. I get a crit, so that's good. Of course, if you land this many hits with a single move, decent chance you get a crit eventually. Miraidon is at fairly low HP. They definitely have another physical attacker in the back because they only have physical attackers remaining, so Zekrom's lower defense could become an issue, but as it stands right now, I'm going to pivot back to Landorus. Scale shot Miraidon. Zekrom's a +2 speed. It's slower than Miraidon, but we switch Landorus in on the Electro Drift. They double up with Moonblast to get rid of Landorus, but I've preserved Kyogre. I've knocked out Miraidon. Yeah, Zekrom's at -3 defense, but that has no bearing on its special defense. Gouging Fire is their last Pokemon, okay. In that case, I think I'm down... I could see this being Sunny Day Whimsicott, but I still think I'm down to quick Origin Pulse. And just keep covering the Gouging Fire with the Scale Shot. They Tailwind, but Zekrom is still faster at this point at +3 speed. Looks like that's just going to knock the Gouging Fire out. We get all 5 hits. And knock out the Whimsicott. Okay. This team is already making for some silly games, but yeah, that opponent just didn't have... They just didn't bring an answer to Scale Shot once I got it rolling. Look at these. Can you see these stats? I think you can. 46 defense, but 426 speed. Alright, Kyogre, Zacian, Grimmsnarl, Urshifu, Incineroar, and Rillaboom. Probably gonna be hard for Zekrom to just power through this one, but if I get like plus speed, they don't have Tailwind. If I get like Tailwind and Bolt Strike going, of course I've gone in on, well, of course I've loaded dice Zekrom, so it can be intimidated. I'm just gonna lead Tornadus and Zekrom though. We're gonna see what happens. Hopefully I get to Bolt Strike some stuff. This team is definitely not as good as the Regieleki one. The Regieleki one had some flaws as well. But Zekrom is... I don't know, to me Zekrom is kind of the perfect Pokemon for a series like this. I think I've said before, so the reason is because Zekrom plays in such a janky way. It makes for some fun. When I first did my original version of this, just to pass some time, when Gen 7 was current gen, I was playing singles Ubers, and there was no YouTube for it. That makes it sound like YouTube didn't exist. I didn't have a YouTube channel. I was just doing it to entertain. I was just doing it to entertain myself and pass the time. But perfect. Okay. Sorry. Gameplay and talking at the same time here. Back when I did the first version of this, my Zekrom team was one of my favorites because I was playing Gen 7 singles Ubers, no recording, just for my own entertainment. And if you know that format at all, you know that Primal Groudon was king. But because I was speed building, when I made my Zekrom team, I forgot to have a ground resist, which was like the most important thing in that format. I've just used Zekrom here to try to get some damage to open up openings for Kyogre. Unfortunately, I think they figured out what I was doing there. Yeah, so I built my Zekrom team without a ground resist because I just didn't think of it, and that actually made that team super fun because I had to play it hyper aggressively. Every opponent had at least one of Primal Groudon and Zygarde. I think there might have been another ground type. I can't remember if people were using ground Arceus. I feel like Fairy was the most common Arceus form, but In any case, yeah, it meant that I got into a lot of positions with Zekrom where all I could do was just attack and hope for the best. And sometimes that worked out, sometimes it didn't. I'm gonna lose to Zacian, I think. But it made for some really fun games. And now I have Zekrom doing this scale shot cheese with the Bolt Strike as well. And I'm feeling this is going to be a scuffed episode of this series. This is not going to be, in some ways, on par with the rest of it so far, but I feel like I have sort of recaptured the spirit of what this is about with the help of Zekrom here. I had a silly idea, and I'm giving it a go. The Kyogre knocks mine out. I don't think that battle needed too much analysis. Let me see. I think I have... You won't be able to see this, but... I don't know how to find it. Maybe I'll... Oh, nope. I found it. I kept images of what Pokemon were on a few of those teams. Zekrom, Marshadow, Smeargle, Xerneas, Primal Groudon, and Duskmane Necrozma. So yeah, not a ground resist to be found there. Okay, Shadow Rider, Zamazenta, Tornadus, Chi-Yu, that's what that's called, Smeargle, and Rillaboom. Most of these Pokemon don't want to take a scale shot. I'm just saying. And if I can get the Zekrom faster than Shadow Rider, which would take a bit of time, but if I can do it. Let's try this. Do I want Kyogre in this game? They have so many threats. I'm gonna bring Qianpao and Urshifu. We're gonna mix it up. I'm bringing those two. Gotta get them into a game at some point, right? They lead Tornadus and Calyrex, so that's a more aggressive lead than I was hoping to see because I would like to get some setup for Zekrom before I have to deal with this. But I can Scale Shoot the Calyrex. They don't have a physical attacker on the field to punish the defense drop. And so then if Zekrom gets through his turn, also, that's a good reason to... Yeah. Okay. I was going to say I'm glad I didn't click Bolt Strike because of that. Unfortunately, it's Ground Terra Blast Shadow Rider. Pretty vulnerable to Urshifu now, though. But they probably have Rillaboom in the back, but we'll see. But... Whoa! Okay, that's a good attack. It got me with that, but this just hit so hard. Their Shadow Rider's still gone now that it's become weak to water. Sure did get the better of my Zekrom, though. Terra Ground Shadow Rider is not... it's another one of those sets that are not super common, but not that out there. Let's see if I can get away with this and then get the rain back up. Mental Herb. Okay. It's another one of those sets that... My Tornadus is consistently moving before theirs, though. I have like 4 speed EVs on Tornadus, so they probably have no investment. Anyway... I have to sack Qianpao here. Tornadus can maybe beat Rillaboom, but I need Urshifu to break the Zamazenta, probably. Anyway, what was I saying? Terra Ground Shadow Rider. Okay, can't get rain. Terra Ground Shadow Rider Calyrex is another of those sets where... Most combat it is, where it's not super common, but it's also not super rare. So I'm not shocked that I ran into it, but I would have preferred not to. Okay, we lose this for sure. Is that already 3 losses? I'm really scattered this video, but I feel like it probably is. Ooh, there's a cat right outside my window. That's not going to make me less scattered. We have a very nice, floofy Mostly white, probably color point cat. Anyway. GG Regiseal. Oh, they already left. Man, I feel like anyone watching this video is either going to especially love or especially hate this one in the context of the rest of the series. But you know what? Zekrom is just the right Pokemon for that. Let's try to lock in. I don't remember how many games I've lost. I'm going to say it's been 2. Let's try to lock in from here. I think it might have been 3. But the official canon now is that it's 2. So, you're breaking canon if you tell me I'm wrong. Okay. This team looks like it leaves no opening at all for Zekrom to cook. Well. I'm going to try it, though, with Champao. I haven't tried that duo yet. And I'm going to bring these two and actually leave the Kyogre behind. I think if I get the right positioning, Landorus can win this. Oh, easier said than done. I guess my neighbors have a cat. Never noticed that before. Arguably more interesting than Pokemon. Maybe not. Alright, Miraidon Farigiraf. I cannot Sucker Punch the Miraidon because they have the Farigiraf on the field. What I can do is Terra Fairy Zekrom immediately, Scale Shot into Miraidon slot. I taunt the Farigiraf. Okay, Scale Shot was not the right call. Doesn't matter. They don't get to find out what I did. Alright. I can pretty much call this one here. But I'll play it out. Lynch? Nope. Have we learned anything from this video? I don't know. I'm not sure I have the brain power to learn things right now. But I think one thing that we're finding is that Zekrom's speed tier is really, really bad. There have been multiple battles this video where Zekrom was knocked out before it got a chance to do anything. Even here when I terrestrialized it. Get around the fairy weakness. Regieleki performed a lot better in a different role apart from being the electric type. But a big part of that, I think, is that Regieleki is faster than anything else. So it gets more opportunities to throw off some attacks and whatnot. Zekrom, I say, hey, it looks like it could be a threat. Bring it in, and it just gets knocked out. With the one exception being the game where... Okay. The one exception being the game where it... the opponent allowed it to set up a bunch of scale shots and didn't have a physical attacker ready to punish. So, they weren't really attacking with their special attackers either, but even if they were, that doesn't have the same effect. So, Zekrom was able to outspeed even their Scarf Miraidon by the end, and it was Terra Dark Miraidon, so it could Scale Shoot it. This was a closer game than it had any business being. I could have won with a crit on that last turn. I'm going to give Zekrom the send-off battle. I'm going to lead Zekrom no matter what. Probably with... I'm going to lead Tornadus Zekrom no matter what. I'm going to try to get Zekrom rolling again, but I think we've established that it's really hard in this format. Cat's back. This might be a matchup where I can do it, although that Miraidon, maybe not, but I'm going to do what I said. I'm going to bring Kyogre. Bring Champao, because it's actually really strong into a lot of their team, including Miraidon, which is what I'm most afraid of. So I thought about Landorus for the Miraidon, but Champao is also strong into Miraidon. This opponent notably doesn't have a Farigiraf to stop Sucker Punch, so that's nice. Okay. Well, they also don't lead with their Tailwind Setter, but they do lead with a bunch of threats. I'm going to Terra Fairy, and I'm going to learn my lesson and Bolt Strike the Miraidon this time. They Terra Fairy the Calyrex, so I shouldn't have learned my lesson. I should have Scale Shot the Miraidon after all. Or at least it would have been more valuable than what I did. They can get their Tailwind now. They Glacial Lance, single target. We found an attack that Zekrom can take. So that's nice. I have not clicked Draco Meteor a single time, by the way. Probably could have used a different kind of physical coverage. Even if they set Tailwind, it could be Trick Room Whimsicott, actually. It's not impossible. Even if they set Tailwind, I should be able to outspeed Calyrex. They'll try to overwhelm it with Kyogre, but they might well have a way around this. Let's see. I think Water Spout is okay. Oh, they have Stun Spore. That's a cool attack. They got the full para too. And Trick Room. The one thing that's kind of awkward is that they've made Kyogre slower now. But that's mitigated by the fact that I still have Tailwind up for 2 more turns. No Champao here. But I can't readily Sucker Punch the Calyrex because it's Fairy type. They also can paralyze my Zekrom because it's a Fairy type. I guess I'll fish for the double. I can protect Champao as well. Don't get the double. We'll drop the Glacial Lance there. But now Kyogre is back, and it's paralyzed, and Trick Room is still up. So let's see what that does. Unfortunately, there are only 2 more turns of rain, and I'll never be able to set it back up. I'm for Moonblast into Champao, and the Sash is already broken. I would love to preserve Champao if I can. Maybe the Water Spout will KO Whimsicott. They Stun Spore Champao, but Dark-type Prankster immunity comes in clutch, but their Calyrex is still... After all that, their Calyrex is still slower, and it wins the game. I really want to try to get one more Zekrom sweep. But it's so hard in this format. Zekrom is not good. I got one more game. One more game. Right on Terrapagos. Annihilate. Okay. Alright. Volcarona is a real potential problem. Real potential? You know what I mean. Alright, let's do Zekrom, Tornadus, Kyogre. Zekrom, Tornadus. Maybe Champao or Shifu. No, I think I need Kyogre. Kyogre or Shifu. Hope that I have enough for the Rillaboom. We'll see. They're taking some time to figure this one out as well, so that might be nice for me. It is Rillaboom and Terrapagos. The Rillaboom is here immediately. I'm just gonna I'm just gonna attack. And taunt Terrapagos. They fake out Zekrom. Makes sense. I hope Terrapagos went for Calm Mind. It did. Nice. I'm just going to attack. If I get a lot of damage into Rillaboom, that could be very handy. I hope I land this Bleak Wind Storm. Removing Rillaboom is huge, considering what Pokemon I brought. Nice. It also breaks Terra Shell. Zekrom takes that Earth Power pretty well, actually. Shows you, I guess, the power of Terapagos without a boost. Incineroar's here. It intimidates Zekrom. I don't think I want to leave Zekrom in on that. I think I can go Kyogre pretty safely. And with that in mind, Bleak Wind again. The rain's going up anyway, so I don't have to click Rain Dance. I'm not under any pressure to click Tailwind, and I can get more chip on Terapagos and prevent them from getting Terra Shell back. They actually just Terra immediately, so that's a good play. They shut down my rain. But Terra Shell is no longer an issue for the rest of the battle. I also got speed drops into both Pokemon with Bleak Wind Storm there. Kyogre takes the Terra Star Storm pretty nicely. I'll just Rain Dance and Origin Pulse here. They've already used their one Terraform Zero, so they can't. They could have Koraidon in the back to remove my rain, but they can't remove it with Terapagos anymore. We might see Koraidon, but if it switches in right now, of course, then I still get Weather Control, and it does. Okay. Big... Okay, Terapagos protects, but big Origin Pulse coming out. Incineroar has to switch back in to get Fake Out pressure. Koraidon has to switch back in and switch out first to get Sun back up. Terapagos has already used his Terraform Zero. Koraidon is faster than Kyogre? Not anymore. And it doesn't take another Origin Pulse hit. They forfeit. Alright, well... That wasn't a Zekrom sweep, but at least we got Zekrom back in the win column. Did it do anything that game? Yes, actually. It got a 5-hit scale shot into Rillaboom, chipping that down so that Tornadus could get the KO. And I was very concerned about removing Rillaboom quickly because, of course, my two Pokemon in the back were Kyogre and Rapid Strike Urshifu. Kyogre gets very strong, and also it beats Incineroar. Volcarona helps deal with Koraidon, and Urshifu because the fighting type... the physical fighting type offense is very helpful in the Terapagos. But picking that mode made Rillaboom a threat. I thought that I might be all in on Tornadus to beat it, but they let me land that scale shot, and that got Rillaboom out of there pretty quickly in combination with the Bleak Wind Storm. So we only got the one Zekrom sweep, didn't manage to get another one, but did get Zekrom back into the win column at the end, and I think I can call it there. I think that is enough Zekrom gameplay. Zekrom is always a fun and crazy Pokemon to bring out in a series like this. I'm glad that it got to live up to that reputation, and there's still a bunch of legendaries left. Who knows what's next?